I'm Kelly Vaughn, and this is Inside Indy. You know, one of the things we love doing on this show is showcasing individuals and organizations who do great things in our community. And I have a couple of people in the studio today. They're part of a very wonderful and fascinating organization, the Rotary Club. And they are Ramona Adams, and you are president of the Rotary Club of Indianapolis.
That's right.
Go, girl. Okay.
Thanks.
And then we have John Manella, who is the president-elect of the Rotary Club of Indianapolis. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Tell people who you are and what you do in Indy.
Sure. Well, the Rotary Club of Indianapolis is just one of 33,000 clubs worldwide. We call ourselves Rotarians, and we are joined by another 1.2 million throughout the world. And Rotary is really founded on business networking with an incredible emphasis on service. The organization's motto is service above self. So it allows individuals to be a member of an organization that benefits them as individuals, but yet also reach out to better the community that they live in and the world as well.
Okay. So what are some of the, you mentioned making the world a better place, addressing issues in the community. What are some of the issues that you will be addressing and perhaps have addressed in the past? John?
Perhaps one of the biggest issues that Rotary internationally has approached in the past is this quest to end polio. And we are, as they say, this close. We're down to, I believe it's 3 countries now that still have signs of the polio epidemic. But we have managed over the last several decades to work with people like Bill Gates and the Gates Foundation and several other health organizations around the world to eradicate polio.
Wow. So where does it remain at this point? What countries?
3 countries in the Middle East.
Really? Okay.
I believe Afghanistan and Pakistan. And one of the biggest reasons for that is getting the healthcare workers there in order to get the vaccine to those who need it. So the vaccine is readily available. We are 99.9% eradicated, but until we can get access into all of those countries, unfortunately, there still are a few cases.
Wow.
But the program started in 1988, and Rotary International and the End Polio Now campaign have made incredible strides.
Right.
Wow. And my sister had polio as a young girl.
So you know, and fortunately, there aren't nearly the cases, especially here in the United States. So a lot of people don't know about it. What it used to be like for these folks. So one of the things that I'm doing this year in my presidency, knowing that we are so close, is to remind people how far we've come and share images of those who have suffered from this and how amazing it is that 60 cents is all it takes to fund a vaccine itself. The actual dosage is only 60 cents.
Wow.
So it's pretty amazing, and it makes us here in Indianapolis feel like, you know, we do a lot of good here locally, but we're just 2 people, and we're a club of 300 plus who are still helping worldwide in that achievement.
Wow, that's incredible. So how does one become a member of the Rotary Club?
Come to a meeting.
Okay.
It's as easy as that, really, and come and experience all that Rotary has to offer. It's not just about networking, and it's not just about the service piece. There's certainly a social aspect to it. We have outstanding speakers on a weekly basis. We really have the who's who of Indiana and even the national scene who have spoken to our club in the past. People like Calvin Klein has spoken to our club.
That's why you're so shaky. That explains it.
He loved
I know
us
now.
Yeah. And we're also fortunate to have many of our elected officials speak to us on an annual basis. The governor makes an annual trip to our Rotary meeting, which happens to just be at the Ivy Tech Culinary and Conference Center on North Meridian Street. Yeah, it's great. Senator Joe Donnelly will be speaking to us August 15th, which is great. So really, it's easy to become a member. Come visit a club meeting, meet some Rotarians, interact with them. There is an application process. It's a pretty painless process, and you know, we are open and happy to talk to anyone about membership.
So the speaking part of it, and that's what I remember most about. Oftentimes, as a young reporter, I was there at the Rotary Club because you had a keynote speaker. So that's you do that every week. You usually have somebody speaking.
We meet every Tuesday.
Wow.
Every Tuesday at noon.
Okay, that's all coming back to me. Yeah. That's pretty serious commitment.
It's a big commitment. One of the things that has evolved, however, over time, and one thing that both John and I in our leadership goals is to let people know that it is no longer about what Rotarians used to pride themselves on in terms of perfect attendance.
Right.
We now talk about perfect engagement.
That's right.
So that means being engaged as a Rotarian all the time, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's just attending a meeting on a Tuesday. It could be one of our monthly socials. It could be a Saturday service project. It could be
Rotary Golf.
Exactly.
Or the Rotary Bowling League that we
Okay,
have. So,
okay.
there are
Just to
lots
be
of
a part of that.
opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Be active. Now, I know you mentioned the efforts to eradicate polio. What about in Indianapolis? Any particular issues that you all are addressing, or they concern you?
I think one of the biggest things for us, knowing that service above self is our main goal, is to get other people to understand how impactful volunteerism is in whatever cause it might be. And so to that vein, we have partnered with the city of Indianapolis on Indy Do Day, which is essentially 3 days at the end of September. It started out of Eli Lilly and their Global Day of Service and the United Way's Day of Caring, and just really has evolved into this 3 days of everybody in the community doing something to help a cause or someone or an organization. So we spend a lot of time just trying to let people know, whether it's cleaning up a park, whether it's helping to tutor a student in math or in reading, whether it's helping somebody with their personal finances, maybe they're young or they've got themselves into trouble with money. Who is an expert in maybe that banking field that can help them? So the volunteerism comes in a variety of different ways. So if we can convey to anybody, it's not necessarily the size and the scale of what you do, but that it is doing something. If you have a skill or a talent, share that with somebody who could really benefit from it.
Okay. Let's talk about networking, since that is a key part of what your organization is about. And I would think, in a sense, you all were kind of ahead of your time in that respect.
Actually,
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
And when the organization was founded in Chicago, it was founded by businessmen who wanted to be able to share their thoughts and ideas and their challenges and their successes. And I think there for a while, our club especially really focused a lot more on service and maybe lost sight a little bit of the networking aspect. But we've realized that when you come to Rotary, you can get all kinds of benefits in one organization, which I know for me personally, it has been fantastic. The social, the giving, the volunteering, the networking, the personal development. You get all of those in one organization. So we have one particular committee that is all focused on bringing Rotarians together for a roundtable of, speed networking, if you will, and a variety of other activities, so that people can share what their businesses are.
Right.
And when you're working with somebody at Gleaner's Food Bank and you're volunteering with them, or you're volunteering helping one of the Indianapolis public schools, with a four-way test or something, you're getting to know your fellow Rotarians, and you talk to someone who might have a service that you need, or you might be able to put them in touch with someone else, to work through a project, or maybe you need a florist, or maybe you need an accountant, or maybe you need an attorney, who knows what the case may be. So now we're more inclined to call on our friends, because our Rotarian colleagues have become friends as well.
Okay.
So.
Because it
Very much
really
so.
is about relationships,
It really
isn't it?
is.
It's all about
yeah.
the
It
really is.
relationships.
Yeah.
And even if John needed something that I couldn't necessarily provide, I bet in my network somewhere I could help him out. And so it's just one of those ways to grow your network and expand. And as he said, you're going to have attorneys and florists and speech coaches, and I'm in hospitality sales. John's in development for education. So it's not just a group focused on those in accounting or those in another field, and all kinds of classifications of business is represented.
Right.
With this
very good.
like-minded idea of bettering Indianapolis. We all have this idea that we want to make Indianapolis a better place. And the community, even the donut around it, we want to make it a better place.
So what does Rotary mean? What is the true meaning behind, because we say Rotary Club, but I've never known what that really means. Is it a verb? Is it?
It's a really good question.
It kind of is.
I don't know. I'm just the president of it.
That's right. you know, Rotary to us today is so much different than it was, you know, in the early 1900s when it started. But our logo is a rotary wheel
I got
with
you.
hubs
Okay.
and spokes, and the idea of all these parts working together
Got you.
for a smooth,
Okay.
you know, path to accomplish a goal. How's that?
She's good.
She's
on
good.
her feet.
She's good. And early in the development of Rotary, there's this idea that it was called Rotary because the people who founded, the men who founded Rotary, decided they wanted to meet in different places. They wanted
Right.
to experience different places. So the meetings rotated from place to place.
Love it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Now, and what, it's interesting when you talk about the history of Rotary, the men, and now we have
Right.
a female president.
Absolutely.
That's
So
right.
tell us what that's like leading.
It's-
What had many years ago had been historically a male-dominated
And
club.
it's a very timely question too, Kelly, because just this year was the 30th anniversary of the Supreme Court decision that said Rotary can no longer exclude women.
Right.
So back in May, we had a special Rotary meeting. Marianne Glick, local philanthropist and an entrepreneur,
Oh, yes.
spoke to us, and it was really a neat celebration. And I am excited to be the fifth female
yes.
president for the Rotary Club of Indianapolis. And interestingly, I'm following a female president that we just had last year. So girl power is,
All right.
is nice, and it's a great mix. You know, there are a lot of Rotary clubs out there that are still male dominated. We're not yet 50-50, but we're getting closer, and we're getting younger, and we're getting more diverse, and letting people know that, you know, it takes all kinds to make a really inclusive club.
Very good, very good. So how can people, I know you said attend a meeting, how can people attend the meeting to consider joining? How can we make that happen for them?
First step is to visit indyrotary.org, and that's the website where they can go and learn more about what's coming up at the next meetings. We meet every Tuesday, Ivy Tech Culinary and Conference Center on Meridian Street.
Plenty of parking?
Plenty of
Plenty of
parking.
parking, free parking.
That's right. That's right. And if they're interested in joining, then come and find Ramona and I, and one of us will buy lunch, and we'll be
Absolutely.
happy to talk more about it.
Okay.
And there really is a lot of information on the website, like
really
John
is.
said, just
Okay.
about our speakers. So if you're interested in coming back for a visit and your schedule's super busy and you want to kind of plan ahead, take a look. We have our schedule of speakers on there through October, and some of our special socials, as well as our community service projects.
Okay, sounds good to me. Ramona Adams, who is the president of the Rotary Club of Indianapolis, and President-elect John Mandela. Thanks so much for joining us on
Thanks,
Inside
Kelly.
Indy.
Thanks.
And we'll have more for you when we come back. And we're back, and here on Inside Indy, families are first, and nobody knows that better than Laura Henderson, and you are the education coordinator for Families First.
Certainly, yes.
Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you for this opportunity to come and share
Families-
about Families First.
And we appreciate you coming in. It's kind of self-explanatory, but I think it's a little bit deeper than the title. Tell us what
Certainly.
Families First is about.
Well, let's start with our mission statement. It's to create healthier communities by strengthening families and individuals through life challenges and changes. Exactly that. So we receive referrals from DCS. Our individuals can self-refer, and I usually try to say anything that's kind of disrupted the household, the family's household. And so we're there to help with that reunification and help try to get them back on track again. So in keeping with our mission, that's what we do, is we provide opportunities to strengthen the family, and hopefully when they leave from us and reunite with their families and back in their communities, they are stronger, and the communities will be healthier because of that.
So you said you're about strengthening families. So what are some of the issues that you face that weaken families? And I know you mentioned the agencies you work with, but I want to get a little more specific and to kind of create a picture for people to really understand what you do and how you're there in the trenches strengthening these families?
Through education classes and as well as domestic violence, sexual assault, and the big thing now, as you know, you hear it all the time, is substance abuse, working with those individuals. Trauma, the pendulum is swinging toward understanding where the trauma is coming in, and how to unlayer all of those things that caused the trauma that in turn started the domestic violence or the substance abuse. So kind of working backwards to help the individual understand how did we get to today.
Wow. Any conflict resolution type stuff? I mean, so many crimes that are occurring in our community, and I've heard some of the police officers say it has to do with their inability to handle conflict and resolve it.
And we do, in one of our, it's called Batters Intervention, short BIP, it's our men's domestic violence class, and they do go through that very deep into that. And why do you feel that you need this control over a person, and how can you manage your disagreements without it turning into a fight and hitting and all the other things that come along with domestic violence.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so these are some of the things that are kind of weakening our families. You're about strengthening them. And so people reach you through the various agencies. Can they just come to you directly?
We do have some self-referral opportunities, as well as we have some support groups that for individuals, for children, for families, that they don't have to be referred for. They can check our website for the various support groups, survivors of domestic violence, survivors of sexual assault. So sometimes we just need to have an outlet, and it's not necessarily that another agency has gotten involved yet, but we know that we need to start seeking some help before that time.
Okay, let's talk about mental health. And that's a huge umbrella.
Oh, certainly.
So how do you help with the whole mental health challenges in our community? And again, we go back to that issue of crime. A lot of the police officers are saying maybe even a third of the runs they take or they make, that's what they're running into. Sometimes it's a mental health issue.
Certainly it is. We have many programs that we do within the community for lay persons, for organizations, for schools. Our biggest one is the mental health first aid. It's just like a CPR class. You know, you take a CPR class, you got your card. You hope you don't ever have to use it, but you learn those skills and things if it came about that you had to. So that's the same way for mental health first aid. You learn the 5 strategies and being able to recognize the signs and symptoms in someone that's having a mental health crisis, and then the resources. If you don't come in with a degree in psychology, or that you certainly don't have that when you leave, but it is teaching you some skills. And there's 2 separate courses in that. One is specific to youth versus the adults, because youth needs something different than the adults do. So, and that's a great one. Then we have QPR, which is question, persuade, and refer. People find it hard they may hear in the conversation of the loved one, maybe something about suicide, but I'm afraid to ask. And so that's what the QPR is helping empower that individual to ask, to be able to ask that question. And then once you ask it, hopefully you will know the places to refer them to, the resources. So that's QPR. And then we have text to talk for the youth. They can text as, something's going on, I need some help here. Our youth suicide rate is second in the nation, and we should not have that. And every 15.8 minutes of a day by NAMI, so if you want to say every 16 minutes, we lose 2 persons by suicide, but 3 times that have attempted that. So, our youth is living in the darkness. So whatever we can do at Families First through our program and through our trainings to help our families understand that and get away from the stigma, that's the big thing. Especially in the African American community, we don't want to go to the psychiatrist or the therapist, or that's just the way it's been. Yes, and so the name callings that go along with stigma. So people generally, it's 10 years pass before they may get a diagnosis diagnosis and maybe even longer than that before, or if at all, they
If at
receive
all.
treatment. Yeah.
Okay, so it's never addressed because I don't know if it's a denial thing or just it's not popular or attractive or, like, as again, we said, the stigma attached to it. You mentioned about the youth suicide prevention, and what's interesting, I think a lot of people are surprised to hear that many people kill themselves. And I think part of the problem is, and I've worked in media for many years, as a news person, we were trained not to report them. Because, and we were taught, well, that's their problem. What they think people are concerned about are the stories that might affect them.
Yeah.
So they looked at suicide as a personal thing. It doesn't affect people in the community, so therefore we don't report it. But when there's a homicide, we're on that because Billy shot Bob, which means Billy could shoot me.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
so I think some people might be surprised to hear so many.
And, you know, with you saying that, our suicide rate is so much higher than our homicide rate. But as you said, it's not shared, it's not towed. Unless, take for instance, a recent incident, the police were called and they had to use the drones. Then we heard about that, but it's kept under the covers, it's kept quiet. And you know, the really sad thing about it is when you look at television, you look at commercials, we talk about everything under our clothes, as my grandmother would say, but we don't talk about the head.
Right.
We don't talk about the head. And even when we go to the doctor sometimes, you know, that's a question that's not asked. How are you feeling? What's going on with you?
Right, psychologically. You're right. They just say, you know, they look at, check your heart, they don't check your head.
No.
Good point.
No.
Good
So,
point. Good point. The crisis line, can we talk about that? If someone needs help, and they're watching tonight, they need help.
Yes. The crisis line is 24/7, 365 days a year. We have 2 regular staffed employees, but the rest of the time it is totally ran by volunteers. So our need for volunteers never ceased. The more volunteers, the more we can be available, even though the lines are never missed. And the training is the longest part of it. And most people are fearful when you say the crisis line, I'm not going to know what to say, I'm not a therapist or whatever. But we provide you the training, and there's supervisors always available to assist, and that's the name of the training, assist, if you get hung up or you get stuck on something. But the training is very intense, and so we need volunteers.
Okay. Okay, to be a part of that. So
Yes.
how would you get in touch with you to be a part of the crisis hotline?
Crisis hotline. Our website, www.families, with families is FAMILIES, first, Indiana.org. You can go right on there and click on volunteer and register there, and our volunteer coordinator will get back with you quickly, because our next class is coming up in a few weeks.
Oh, nice.
So
Okay.
if, you know, all we ask that you have a heart and compassion for people.
Okay, well, we appreciate you coming in because we
Thank
know you
you.
have a heart and compassion
I
for
do.
people.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much for joining us. Laura
Thank you.
Henderson, and she's the education coordinator for Families First. Thanks for joining us
Thank you.
on Inside Indy. And that's our show. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.